Good evening. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Delta, will be filming, recording, and photographing this event for use in Delta promotional videos, photography, advertisement, social media platforms, web pages, and other future Delta events as the case may be. The production. Via continued participation in and by continuing to remain logged into this event, hereby, 1. Acknowledges that participant may be photographed, filmed, or otherwise recorded while on the premises of the event. 2. Grants Delta, its successors, assigns, and licensees irrevocable consent to include participants' name, likeness, photographic image, mannerisms, and voice or other recording media in the production or for exploitation for any purpose whatsoever in any and all media now known or hereafter devised throughout the universe in perpetuity without compensation and or credit. 3. Represents, warrants, and agrees that Delta holds and shall forever hold all display, publication, and ownership rights, licenses, and privileges to any and all media, whether in law or in equity, which may be asserted, ascertained, registered, or in any way utilized with respect thereto, rights. And 4, waives, releases, and transfers, as the case may be, any and all such rights, whether in law or equity, as may be necessary or required to effectuate Delta's establishment of ownership. Participant further agrees to abide by and comply with any and all terms of use and or additional participation rules as applicable and specified during relevant sections of the program, and acknowledges, understands, and agrees that violation of such participation rules shall result in legal recourse and disciplinary action. Good evening. My name is Joy Galbers, and on behalf of Fairfax County Alumni Chapter President Lenore Simmons and the members of the Financial Fortitude Committee, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us this evening. This is the first in a series of Financial Fortitude Fridays. Tonight, we will focus on the use of fundamental principles to create your own blueprint for a successful financial future. And now I'd like to introduce Sora Pansy Davis, who will now review a few more housekeeping items before introducing you to our speaker for the evening. Sora Davis.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for dialing in. We're very excited to share our Fortitude Fridays with you and excited to introduce you to the series of very interesting topics that are guaranteed to spark some information about how to not only grow wealth, but how to build your financial blueprint for the future. A few of our housekeeping topics. Everyone will remain on mute. The presentation will go from 6:30 until 7:30. Then at 7:30, if you'd like to stay for questions and answers, we encourage you to write your questions down as Sarah Angelina McCarthy Bryan goes through the presentation. And then from 7:30 to 8, you'll have the opportunity to ask her your questions via chat. So type your questions in the chat. We will jot those questions down as fast as we can. At the end, Sarah Angelina Bryant will answer those questions. You're encouraged to stay for questions and answers, but the meat of the topic will be discussed from 6:30 to 7:30. Also, any other, did I miss anything, Sarah Joy?
No, ma'am, I think you have covered everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you again, Soros. I'd like to, and participants, I'd like to introduce you to Sarah or Mrs. Angelina McCarthy Bryan. Angelina has an MBA in financial services. She's been a professional and she's a licensed agent, executive counselor for 2019 and $1 Million Roundtable member in 2016. She's also recognized as top 1% of financial services professionals in the world. So we have a really good speaker here for you tonight who knows her business. Also, Sarah Angelina, or Ms. Bryan, runs her own financial practice with New York Life Insurance Company and specializes in an array of financial areas, among them life insurance, annuities, investments, long-term care insurance, retirement planning, college planning, as well as grandparent gifting. Ms. Bryan's ongoing goal is to educate, empower, and help her clients create their own financial peace of mind. Her conference calls will be tailored specifically for her clients and as a full and ensures that they have a full understanding of where each client stands financially and enables her to provide applicable solutions for their financial goals. Mrs. Bryan is providing an opportunity to schedule a free financial consultation for a future date. All you would have to do is reach out to her on your own. We're not selling anything at this presentation, but she is an expert. And if you'd like to get more information, you reach out to her on your own. And she will schedule that and you can have a one-on-one consultation with her. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Angelina McCarthy Bryan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who was able to join us this evening. I do not take it lightly that you took time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. Thank you so much, Soror Pansy and also Soror Joy, just for being able to do our introductions and our disclaimer review. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started, but I always want to just share a little bit of insight. I have been in the financial industry for about 17 years now and counting. It's truly a passion of mine to be able to share, to be able to educate, and to be able to expand each individual's knowledge in the financial areas that concern them the most. So as a financial fortitude committee, we decided that this would be a wonderful time to come up with a series of different financial topics that we're going to be covering. So we hope that you will be not only attending this session, but many more to come throughout the rest of this year. And the beauty is that this is only to educate you. You do not have to buy or purchase anything. But I promise you, you will receive a seed of financial information that I hope will grow with you. And if not, pass it along so others can be touched as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. But I will add something that was important that Soror Pansy shared. The $1 Million Roundtable is a qualification that has to happen on an annual basis. What is beautiful about that is you are the top 1% in the world of financial professionals. My motto personally is in order to receive the information, you need to be at the table. And in this case, the $1 Million Roundtable, because you receive a lot of information that you can share with the community. So with this presentation, I always want to start with the fact that you all have the ability to use the chat feature and you have the ability to raise your hands and so forth. And we will have a question and answer session. But if everybody can do me a favor as an icebreaker and go into your chat, this doesn't have to pertain to you specifically, but if you can tell us what is one financial concern that keeps you up at night or that you have heard keeps others up at night. So if you'll take a moment, and then we are going to have our soror Samira, who will be going through and just reading a few of those out to us, so we know specifically what are some things that keep you up at night or keep others up at night that you know. So we'll give you a few moments to do that. I see some great ones coming in now. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to have a few of these read out. How about we read 10 to see what we've got here?
All right. So thank you, Sora Angelina. So we have quite a few concerns with having enough money saved for retirement, long-term care, paying for college without loans, student debt loans, student loan debt, college tuition, of course, the same, the economy impacting your retirement savings, once again, let's see, 401k activity, long-term care, the stock market. I'm sure people have been watching the GameStop saga over the last few weeks. Let's see, deciding the best time for retirement. So I guess we could say that there are a lot of high-level themes here of retirement, student loan debt, and also long-term care.
Thank you so much, Soror Samira. That was wonderful. And I want everyone on here to know that you are not alone. The number one concerns that I generally hear is, I don't want to run out of money. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of money at some point. And a lot of us don't realize this, but we are living longer. And that means that people are living longer in retirement. So there is always that concern of, how much money should I have? Should I be in the market? Should I be investing? Should I be saving in a CD or a money market or a savings account at the bank? What should I be doing? And how should I be doing it? And for how long? So all of these are great questions. You are not alone. So that means that we're all in this together. And everybody has a reaction button right at the bottom. If there is one person, and it's okay if there is, that can give me a reaction to tell me if they are 100% taken care of, they are good, they need no financial assistance, they have it all set. If there is one person that can give me that reaction, I just want to clap for you, because that is very rare. So is there anyone, can we scroll through, Samira? Do you see anyone that has given us a reaction like that?
Sora Deborah Vaughn has her hand raised.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you know what? Now there we go. I'm getting my reaction. That is awesome. We need to have you with us on the Financial Fortitude Committee, because that is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much. And I saw a lot of reactions with smiles, which was great, which means we're all like, we could probably have a little bit of information here. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get started with this presentation. Okay, let me see if I can see that here. Do you all see anything? Not yet? Let me stop sharing.
Not yet.
Okay.
We saw you were making an attempt.
I see it. I'm going to come back right out and go back in. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Let me go through here. Awesome. Hopefully this should bring us to it. Can we see now?
Yes.
Excellent. Let me just go ahead and make this screen nice and big for us. Okay, great. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So as you all can see, this was our flyer that brought us to the introduction here. So it's building a strong financial foundation, and it is Fortitude Friday. So we're going to be having these seminar sessions on Fridays to promote Fortitude Fridays. And this focus is focusing on the use of fundamental principles to create your own blueprint for a successful financial future. So when we all think about a blueprint, you know, most of the time we're thinking about a home being built and an actual blueprint. And that is going to share with us where everything should be in that home, where the restroom should be, the bedroom should be, where the closets for all of our shoes should be. So it's giving all that great information, right? So that is what it's doing. And the blueprint for your financial future is exactly like that. You have to start with a blueprint and build on a solid foundation so that you have a strong foundation for the future. So that is what this presentation is all about. So of course, welcome everyone. This is my information here so that you know that I am an agent. I am also a financial services professional with Life Securities LLC. This is my office location, my phone number, and my email address. The reason I'm providing this to you is because you may want to reach out to me in your own time if you are so interested in having a free financial consultation. I would be more than happy to do that with you. So this is my information, and you can send me an email if that's probably the easiest thing to do. And then we can go from there. So you'll be able to see that there at amccarthy@ft.newyorklife.com. So moving on from there, this disclosure is important for me to just read again. This is for informational purposes only. And keep in mind that any tax, legal, or accounting advice, you should be seeking those professionals, your tax professionals, your legal professionals, your accounting professionals, and any decisions should be met and made with those individuals who, again, are a part of your financial team. So that's important to keep that in mind. Moving on from here with that disclosure, this participant workbook, it's called Blueprint for Financial Success, and this is yours to have. If you are so interested in receiving an electronic copy of this, please do send me an email and I will forward that along to you. It provides you with some good foundation and information to help you build that strong financial house that we're looking to build with that blueprint. So again, it is a participant workbook. It is electronic. It is free. You can have it as a PDF and you can print it and you can actually utilize it as well. Moving on from here. So what are we going to talk about this evening? We're going to talk about the purpose, the process, and the payoff. So understanding the value of setting the foundation, introducing and educating you all and providing some illustrations for review. And finally, the most important is the payoff, one step closer to the personal financial security that you're looking to meet in many of those different arenas we're going to cover tonight. Now, just as a reminder, there is a lot to go over, and I could talk about this all day, but I will tell you that if you come and join us in the series, you're going to be able to get this broken down. So again, this will only give you a little bit of a touch, but if you want more, come back and we are going to dive into these in greater detail. Let's take a look at this. Most people tend to be visual. So if you're visual, you can actually picture your home. And at the bottom of the house is the cash flow and net worth. Now, as a reminder, it's hard to build wealth with nothing. You have to start somewhere and build upon that. And so with that shared, we'll talk about cash flow and net worth. We're going to talk about risk management because there are things that will happen that are out of our control. And we want to make sure that we are able and we are available to have the monies necessary to be able to handle any risk that should come, any unexpected risk that is. Moving on from there, college funding and retirement planning. The goal is to get there, and we want to have some money when we get there. And it's so important for us to build upon that. What you're doing today is going to build upon your financial future for tomorrow so that you will have multiple sources of income to be able to tap into should you so choose to. And of course, wealth accumulation. Wealth accumulation is gathering as much wealth as you can. So again, you will have the multiple sources of income to be able to tap into that. Now, a lot of times people will tell me, oh, well, you know, I've got a 401k, I've got an IRA, I've got a 401a, I've got a 403b, and it's interesting because I also say, how much of that money is taxable? That is a key question and a key thought. How much of that money is taxable? Because do you have a Roth 401k? Do you have a traditional 401k? Do you have a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA? It makes a difference because whatever you're going to have left after taxes is what's really yours, right? So again, talking about building on our house, so our visual home. So moving on from there, let's go ahead and take a look here. So when we are looking at the levels, we're going to start off with our cash flow and net worth. So we're going to take a look exactly what does that mean? I cannot assume, as I tell everyone I speak to, that everybody knows what cash flow and net worth are. We may have heard of these words, but what do they actually mean to us? So let's go ahead and take a look here. So household income. In order to calculate your cash flow, you want to take a look at your household income. What you're bringing in, if you are married, what your spouse is bringing in, and then other. Now, you'd be surprised. When I sit down with a couple, I ask them, do you all do your financial planning together or do you do it separately? That also makes a difference. So you want to make sure you understand that. And we also ask, do you file your taxes together? Do you file joint? Or do you file married filing separate? Or are you head of household? You know, are you single? Do you have children? You know, these things all play a factor because again, it's all going to come back to the understanding of your financial future. Now, keep in mind, when we're looking at finances, it's like a puzzle and you've got all these little pieces and we're going to have to piece it back together to figure out exactly where you are. So then we subtract your household income from your household expenditures. So the expenses, well, we've got an array of them here. Let's take a look. We've got housing, utilities, transportation, food, school, childcare, clothing, charity, entertainment, recreation, estimated taxes, just to name a few. Now, I can tell you, I mean, again, with the household expenditures, that has to be subtracted out. Once you do that, that is your cash flow. What do you have left over after everything is taken care of at the end of the month? What is left over? And not only what is left over, but what are you doing with what's left over? And a lot of times, a lot of people will tell me, it's sad, but I don't really know how much is left over. And the reason for not knowing is because a lot of people don't go back and actually do a budget for themselves to see how much did I bring in, how much is going out, and how much do I have left? And where is it going? Is it being eaten up into fees? Am I using it for recreation and going out and expenditures in that way? What am I doing with that money? And is my money working harder for me? Is it working smarter for me? Or do I have a leaking faucet where I just don't realize where the leak is and it's going to cost me in the future? So again, all of this plays a role into the cash flow and the understanding of cash flow. Now, how do I determine my net worth? So your assets, think about home, auto, financial accounts, etc. Subtracting liabilities, mortgage, loans, credit card debt, that's a big one, and other. Now, we won't go into revolving lines of credit, but again, everybody has been doing something, I'm sure, over the past few months, and it's called refinancing their homes because the interest rates have dropped significantly. And when you're looking to get a loan or refinancing of your home, they're looking at all these things, especially revolving lines of credit that factors in. So again, you want to get a handle on those things because they ultimately do affect your credit score, which is used to be able to determine your credit worthiness. That plays a big role. And also when we're talking about retirement, and we want to make sure we understand that as you retire, mortgage is usually the largest debt for most individuals. So you want to keep in mind a lot of times you will fall into the trap where you may have a limited amount of income. It may be modified as you retire. So we may want to get that home debt mortgage off of us. So again, we will talk about that, but when you subtract your assets from your liabilities, that is your net worth. So moving on from there, risk management. Have we prepared for the risks or the unexpected emergencies that emerge? So let's take a look into this a little bit more. So emergency fund, do I have money set aside in the event that there's a faucet leakage? In the event my AC goes out, there's an unexpected medical emergency, or who knows, the roof, we need a whole new roof on the house. These are emergencies that may come up. You know, the transmission in the car may go out. So do you have something set aside that is above your savings, that is not used on a monthly basis to handle your expenditures and your bills, but it's set aside that if an emergency does come about, you can access it and it can be liquidated quickly? So that is something we have to factor into the emergency fund. Moving on from here, this is now something that most individuals don't like to talk about, which is life insurance. It is a key component of risk management. A lot of individuals say, well, you know what? My single individuals will say, why have life insurance? I'm not married. I don't have a family. It's just me. I don't need life insurance right now. Maybe when I get married, maybe when I have children, maybe when I have a reason, then I'll consider life insurance. So let's note down the 3 factors in life insurance. Factor number 1, your age. Factor number 2, your health. Factor number 3, your gender. So there is a difference between your actual age and your insurance age. Your actual age is the age you are today. However, most insurance companies, when you are 6 months to your next birthday, you are already the new age. So that means if it's 6 months to your next birthday, let's say you're 30, and let's just say that your birthday is happening in May. We're in February. They're going to say, oh, you're 31 years old. Because again, 6 months to your next birthday, you're already that new age. Now, why is a gender something we need to factor in? Well, women tend to live longer than males do. Now, I can't tell you why, but that tends to be the trend. So because women tend to live longer than men do, we get an insurance discount because we're women. So we win there. So that's exciting. Now, moving on from that, it means if a man is the same age as you and the same health as you, he will pay more because he is a man. Now, going back to the question of long-term care, men pay less than women in long-term care scenarios. And can you understand why? Because we live longer. We're going to be using long-term care longer. And so we pay more for long-term care. So again, it works both ways here, just depending on which policy you're looking into. Now, health. How do we determine how healthy someone is? It is not by them saying, I'm healthy. What happens is a small sample of blood and a small sample of urine is collected. It is tested for AIDS, HIV. They're looking for also things like high cholesterol, diabetes. It doesn't mean that if somebody is a diabetic, automatically they're declined for a policy, because there are different types of diabetics. There are type 2 diabetics who are mainly utilizing medication and diet to help. And there are individuals who are type 1 diabetics who are on insulin. That will make a difference. If somebody were to have AIDS, HIV, cancer, and interestingly enough, in some cases now, COVID has become a concern with life insurance and life insurance companies. Because again, just because somebody has COVID doesn't mean it's a death sentence. However, it may not preclude them from getting a policy, but they may pay more if they have or have had COVID. So again, these are factors in that underwriters take into consideration. So again, those three factors are age, health, and gender. Now, ultimately, depending upon the amount that you are receiving in a policy and depending upon the type of policy, it can determine whether or not you have to provide a sample. But in most cases, you will, depending upon the company and who you're going with. So moving on from that, before we go into the long-term care conversation, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back because I would like to be able to share with you all visually a little bit about life insurance so you can get a little bit understanding that there are different types of policies. They're not all the same. So what I'm going to do is share with you those different policies. And I'm just going to share with you three. There are more than three, but these are three that will kind of touch upon the wide spectrum. So if you want to jot down these three concepts. The first one is term, T-E-R-M, term. The second one is called custom whole life, custom whole life. And the third one is called variable universal life, variable universal life. So again, there are more than three, but I'm going to touch upon three just to be able to kind of share with you how they work. So as we're listening to my voice, we're going to take a look at some illustrations based upon a individual, and we'll use a woman and then we'll take a look at a man briefly, just so you can see the variances between the two as far as the gender is concerned. So with that, a term policy is generally the least expensive policy you can purchase. Now, I want to be clear before I go into the specifics. I hear clients all the time, well, I don't need to get a private policy. I've got a life insurance policy with my employer. A lot of times those policies are not transferable. Now, it depends on where you are, because my government clients will sometimes, they will have FEGLI, they will have opportunities where they may be able to transfer that policy upon leaving their employment, but they will have to do so at a cost in many cases. And also a lot of times they may have a reduction of death benefit. So that has to be factored in. So there is something called renting insurance and owning insurance. Your employer's policy, you're renting it because half the time when you leave the company, you can't take it with you. So it's not yours, you don't own it. Now, if you pass away while you're employed, then yes, they're going to pay out a benefit. But if you leave them, you separate employment, then they're not all the time. Now, owning a policy means that when you have an individual policy through an insurance company, it doesn't matter where you work, it doesn't matter where you are in life, you're paying for the policy, you have a benefit. Now, when you're talking about the three concepts, we'll take a look at term first. Term is going to be the least expensive option. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, and I'm going to go into a term illustration just so that you all can get an idea of what this looks like. So this is an individual here. She happens to be 39 years old, and she does not smoke. Now, keep in mind, just so you have an understanding of rating, every company has a different rating on health. Now, non-smoker is where the average person will be if you don't smoke. Now, above that, there is what is called preferred. Above preferred is what is called preferred Roman numeral 2. And above that is what is called select preferred. So the healthier you are, the lower the cost of your premium. And a premium, just so you know, is what you're paying on a monthly basis for your policy. Some companies do it semi-annually, some companies do it annually, but in this case, for this concept, this individual is paying on a monthly basis. Now, this person happens to be in the state of Maryland. Now, this policy here that you're seeing is a policy that is valued at about $250,000, and that's what you're seeing here underneath this coverage. That's what I'm highlighting right here, $250,000.
Brian,
Yes,
quick interruption. Is there a way that you can make this a bit bigger?
absolutely.
You're able. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. And so right here, you'll be able to see there's $250,000 there as the benefit in coverage. Now, when we take a look at that, that is telling us, and right here tells us the term. So what's happening is it's a 20-year policy. So it means that if she were to pass away in 20 years, the company has to provide her beneficiaries $250,000 tax-free. Now, what's important about this concept is that I will hear people say, well, what if she lives to 21 years? Can she keep the policy, or will the policy no longer be available? She can absolutely keep the policy beyond 20 years, but if she does so, the premium that she's paying is going to go up every single year after the 20th year. So what's going to happen is it's going to double, it's going to triple, it's going to quadruple, and more than likely become so expensive that she cannot retain it. Think of it like a balloon. And if it's a balloon and it's going to bust, it's going to be too expensive to maintain. So you may want to make a change. And in this policy, she can make a change up to 10 years, meaning that she can convert this policy into a permanent policy that doesn't balloon like this one. This will be the most inexpensive policy. And how inexpensive? In this case, for this particular policy, if we're taking a look at what she's paying on a monthly basis, it says $35.88. Now, again, this is for her being a non-smoking female. Now, if she happens to be select preferred, the healthiest possible, her premium could be $20 because it makes a difference regarding her health. So with this focus here, I'm just going to briefly show you, just so you can take a quick look, because most of us are very visual, so you can see what I mean about that balloon effect. So I'm scrolling down here. So take a look here. So age 40 all the way through, you can see that her annual was the same, $431. That was the annual. Look at what happens when she turns 60 in 21 years. Do you see this right here? This is showing us that she's now going to pay on an annual basis $3,983. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but for a term policy for $250,000, that's a lot of money. So, with that shared, again, the concept of term is that you don't keep term for a lifetime. Term should be kept for a short period of time. That's the focus of term. Now, moving on into our next concept, this is going to be looking at what we call custom whole life. So if we take a look at custom whole life, are you all able to see the screen switch? Okay, do you all see? I just want to make sure that you can see an amount here that I'm highlighting of $440. Do you see that or no?
Yes.
You do. Wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
this right here is to show you for the custom whole life concept, I'm going to show you something that makes a little bit of difference here. When you talk about a permanent policy, permanence means it's going to be with you until you turn 121 years old. That means the policy will stay on your life until you're 121 years old. It doesn't mean you're going to pay until you're 121 years old. In this case, the same client is paying up to the age of 65. When she reaches 65 years old, she's done paying on the policy. Now, this policy has the ability to accumulate cash value. What is this cash value we're talking about? Cash value is like a savings account, if you will, inside the life insurance policy. So every single month when you're paying your premium, some of the premium pays for the cost of insurance and some of the premium goes into what is called cash value. Now that cash value is also receiving dividends, meaning that the company has the ability to put in money that you didn't put in order to help to grow your cash value. Now, why in the world are we talking about cash value? How does this go back to the risk management we were mentioning earlier? It connects because the cash value is tax-free and the cash value can be taken out by you, the owner of the policy, and it can be used for any purpose. It can be used to supplement your income in retirement. It can be used to fix that water heater that just busted, or it can be used to fix the transmission that just came, fell out of the car. It can be used for whatever purpose you would like. And a lot of clients utilize their cash value to supplement their income in retirement tax-free. And you do not have to tell the insurance company what you're using it for. It's your money. Now, if a person does take cash value out, do they have to pay it back? No, they don't. It's really up to you. If you want to pay it back, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. So moving on from here, I just want to show you that in this particular policy, her premium is going to be higher because this money is being used in a way to create and to develop a savings, if you will. So on the same $250,000 coverage, she is paying $440 a month and 86 cents. And she's paying it for 26 years because if you take 39, 26, that equals 65 years and she's done. Now, just to give you a quick example, I'm going to go right into the cash field really quickly because this will really be important here. Now, you'll see here on the far left, these are the years. Don't let it scare you. We said that she's paying until she is 65 years old. So that brings us to 26 years. So when she's 65 years old, she's done. Now we talked about cash value. If we go to the far right, this right here is the cash value that she can borrow from. There's about $206,000 of cash value that she can borrow from. Now, if she were to pass away, there is a death benefit field of over $428,000. Now, does that mean that if she dies, the loved ones get $428,000? Yes, they do. But I thought she started with $250,000. She did. Did it grow? Yes, it did. Now, what if she says, you know what, Angelina, I want to take $100,000 out of my cash value. Out of this 206, I want to take $100,000 out. What's going to happen to her death benefit? The death benefit is going to go down by $100,000. That's because when you take money out, you have a choice. You can pay it back or you don't have to. If you pay it back, the death benefit goes back up, the cash value goes back up. If you don't pay it back, no problem. When you pass, they'll subtract what you took from the death benefit. So I want to move on here to the next one, last one, the variable universal life. And again, when you come to our next sessions, if you want to dive in even deeper and get a greater understanding, then let's do that. But let's go ahead and take a look here at the variable universal life so you all can get a great take here. Here you're going to see, in this case, I'm now going to share with you, we're talking about a permanent policy. And what did we say permanent was? To the age of 121 years old. This policy is also a policy that has cash value. The cash value is built up differently than the custom whole life was. This cash value, how is it made? Some of the premium you pay will pay for the cost of insurance, but some of the premium will go into the cash value. But specifically what will happen is it's going to go into what we call mutual funds. Mutual funds, now we're talking about investments. We're using mutual funds and the stock market to grow the cash value inside the life insurance policy. Now, can cash value go up and down utilizing your reactions? If you think cash value can go up and down in a variable policy, please raise your hand. And you can do that with your reaction. Or, yeah, I've got some hands raised. That's great too. So good. That lets you know right there that absolutely it can go up and down, because the stock market goes up and down. The stock market is emotional like us, and so it goes up and down. So if I take a look at this one, here's her premium. It's $198.38. And it's still the same coverage, $250,000. And what's happening here is, again, it's utilizing the stock market and the mutual funds and their performances to grow the money. Now, in this case, we're only going to have her pay till she's about 59. We're going to have her pay for about 20 years. She could pay longer than that. But the point is that in this case, let's take a look at year 21 when she's 60. Now, the cash value here is showing about $71,000. Now, why is it 71,000? Well, it could be more than that. It could be less than that. But what we're taking a look at is this is about an 8% return. Now, again, it could be more than 8%. It could be. It just depends on what mutual fund she's in. And we'd have to determine who she is as an investor. Is she very conservative as an investor? Is she moderate, which means she's in the middle of conservative and aggressive? Or is she aggressive as an investor? Or he? And it can be a combination, and we would figure that out. But now what we're going to do is stop on this really quickly with these concepts. And again, in the same regard with a man, just so you know, when we were talking about very briefly with a term policy for him, you will see here that his pricing is higher. Where hers was in the 30s for term, his is about $49.25. Now, going into the custom whole life, hers was in the 300s or 400s, his is over almost 600. Again, for the same policy, same face value, which is 250,000. And in the variable, hers was around 190 or so, his is sitting at 272. Why did we say that's the case? That's the case because he's a man and she's a woman. That makes a difference. Now, keep in mind, their ages will make a difference, but just by gender alone, it's going to be more for him. So we're going to stop sharing on here for just a moment, and I'm going to go right back into our presentation for just a second here and get to our long-term care. Now, we talked about risk management. That was important to understand that life insurance can be used because the cash value can be used for any purpose, including an emergency. Long-term care, we're going to touch upon this very briefly because we are going to do a separate session that focuses on strictly long-term care. Now, why is long-term care important? Long-term care is important because we are living longer. We're living longer and we're living longer in retirement. If you don't have a long-term care plan, then you are planning to fail. And that's harsh, but it's the reality, because you will have to utilize the savings that you have acquired over your lifetime of working to be able to pay for your long-term care needs. Now, a lot of individuals say, I don't even know what that is. What is long-term care? What is it? It is an insurance policy that you can purchase to pay for the cost of your care. Now, we all do what's called activities of daily living. Activities of daily living are things you do without even thinking. So activities of daily living, you are specifically looking at bathing yourself, continence, dressing, eating, transferring from a chair into a bed and back and forth, and also cognitive. So we're talking about Alzheimer's and dementia. If you are unable to do 2 or more of the activities of daily living, then your long-term care policy can pay for the care you need in order to get the services to assist you with those needs. Now, in the event that you have one cognitive impairment, whether it's dementia or Alzheimer's, the policy can kick in and start addressing and taking care of you. Why is that important? Because if you don't have a plan, then you're going to have to consider utilizing all of your income And if after you've done that, you still don't have a plan, then you're going to go through Medicaid. Now, after you go through Medicaid, they have a spend down rule. $2,000. You cannot have more than $2,000 of assets. That means that they are saying, don't come on this plan, because if you do, you're going to have to pay out of pocket until you reach the threshold to be approved for Medicaid. And then you cannot decide where you want to go. You cannot tell us you want to stay in your home and receive your care. They're going to send you to wherever is available, what facility can take care of you, because it's not your choice. Now, if you have your own long-term care policy, you can have your care at home, you can have your care at an assisted living facility, you can have your care wherever you want your care, even in a nursing home, if that's what you desire. So that's what long-term care can do for you. And having a policy that addresses that is important. In the next session that we do, we're going to dive in deeper so that you'll be able to actually take a look at what long-term care is and looking at an illustration and get a really deep grasp of long-term care. Now, I can tell you from a personal note, I purchased long-term care when I was in my 20s. Now, the reason is because my grandmother is 100 years old, okay? My father is 80 years old. And on his side, they tend to live a lot longer. So my thought was, I don't want to utilize all my assets or the generational wealth that I want to leave for my children. So I want to have a plan that if I have to go that route, that pays for it separately and doesn't alter or affect my savings. So that's the key, and that's something you want to keep in mind as to why you may potentially want to consider a long-term care policy. Now, looking at that as well, we talked about what is long-term care, so you have a grasp of that. And these are some important factors here. And we talked about what the support can be, what a policy can be. And again, you can have a policy that you and your spouse get together. It's still a separate policy individually, but you get a discount if you apply together, if it's called a marital discount, and it will affect you all. And we'll talk in greater length when we have our long-term care session to come. And hopefully you'll be able to attend. College funding and retirement funding. Would you believe you can use life insurance to fund for college expenditures? People don't realize that, but the cash value can be used for any purpose. Now realize life insurance is not an asset. So when you apply for FAFSA or you apply for financial aid, it is not counted against you. But if you have a 529 plan, nothing wrong with getting a 529 plan. They're great. You just need to understand the reasoning. That 529 plans, they are going to be considered as part of what you have to provide on an application as it pertains to financial aid, because that's going to be counted as, oh, this is an amount that you have set aside. So we're going to subtract that from what we're going to be able to provide you for financial aid. So moving on, you can utilize the variable universal life, the custom whole life for children. And it's not because of the death benefit, it's because of that cash growth inside. Now we will dive deeper into this another session, but I want you to understand that you can take life insurance for your child, or if you're a guardian of that child. And again, you can't get a policy for them and you don't have a policy. How we do it with our company is that a client, an owner, has to have equal or more insurance on their life. And if they have 3 kids, all 3 kids need to have the same amount of insurance so that one kid is not an outlier. Again, we're protecting the children. But why is this important? Because imagine if each one of us had a parent that provided us a life insurance policy. They took care of it, it grew, there was cash value, they used it for our college, we got married, they used it for that, we got a new house, they used it for that. Then they gave us the life insurance policy. Now we can use that policy in our retirement as a multiple source of income that now we can use. Now we have children, now we pass away. Now the death benefit now has created a generational wealth or a legacy that we have passed on to our children and our children's children. So there is a lot of ways we can use life insurance not only for retirement, not only for now and the here and now, but also for far beyond. And the key is we want to keep it tax-free. That means when you do a withdrawal, there's no 1099, there's none of that. So that's important. You're not going to pay federal and state taxes on it. So retirement planning is one of the key areas that most of us want to focus in on, and it is very important to understand that when we dive deeper into the process of retirement planning, we look at everything. All of the accounts I mentioned, the 401k, 403b, 401a, TSP, all of that, IRA, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, we look at all of it. Because keep in mind that there are stipulations with age requirements. And when you tap into retirement money before you are 59 and a half, there is going to be a penalty applied. If you're just withdrawing the money and you are not, there are no plans to pay it back like through an employer plan. But in that case, again, you want to keep in mind that how much money do I have? How much is actually taxable and how much is not taxable? There is qualified money, which means it's taxable, and there is non-qualified money, which means you've already paid taxes on it. And then there's things like life insurance, which can be made into the ability for you to be able to have it tax-free. So again, we will look into that on an individual basis if you would so want to do that. But that's important. Understanding how it works, where your money is, what's taxable, what's not taxable, and utilizing that. And also, is your company contributing? Are you contributing to the max ability that your company is contributing? If your company is contributing 3% or 5%, are you contributing up to their max, or are you overfunding and you're putting away 10%? The question becomes, what type of plan is it? If it's a traditional plan, that means you're going to pay taxes when the money is distributed to you in the future. And if we were to look to where taxes may go, taxes potentially are going to go up, most people believe. Your tax bracket may be a factor later on in life, and you may have to pay a lot of taxes on that money. So the question isn't that you shouldn't be saving, but are you saving in the right avenue? And if you are overfunding, why not take advantage of the lower tax rates now, have the money come into your paycheck, and then we redirect the money into an area that is going to now make more money for you and do it on a tax-free basis. That's a whole other concept. So moving on from there, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming session. Wealth accumulation, gathering as much money as you possibly can gather. That's what wealth accumulation is. And you're building on that wealth. And it's not just now, wealth accumulation can encompass things like real estate. It can encompass life insurance. It can encompass your retirement plans. There is a wealth of knowledge and information when it comes to wealth accumulation, how you can gather it, what you can do with it, where you can put it. Should I be in the market? Should I not be in the market? How much should I be in the market? How much should I not be in the market? If any of these things are kind of light bulbs are going off, you need to be having the conversation, because that means that I'm doing all this. And a lot of folks, we make a lot of money, especially in this area. A lot of people are making six figures. But then if you're making all that money, but you have nothing to show for it at the end of the day, then are you really making money, or do you have a leaky faucet that we need to kind of fix? So if these are questions that are kind of going through your mind, then you definitely want to talk about that. Take a look at the statistics really quickly here. And we've got about 2 minutes before we get to about 7:30 here. But it says among non-retirees, over 50% are saving for retirement through a 401k or other defined contribution plan. 25% of non-retired adults say they have no retirement savings or pension. And nearly 3 in 10 adults are either unable to pay their monthly bills or are one modest financial setback away from basically failing to pay monthly bills in full. And also, COVID has not helped. As we know, the job market and the economy has been greatly affected, and many have lost jobs, and those jobs may not return. There's all factors in this. So moving on from here, most people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. That is key. You know how to do what you do well, which is making your money, but then you also need to have someone come in and help you to plan the money so that you don't have a circumstance where you run out or you don't have an emergency that basically puts you flat on your back. So with all of that shared, when we have our next upcoming sessions, we're going to cover a multitude of areas. We're going to cover things like legacy building, generational wealth, diving into long-term care in a more in-depth way, more life insurance conversation. And in addition to that, estate planning, wills, trusts, medical directives, power of attorneys. You need to have these financial documents in place, because if you don't, you are planning to fail. You're failing to plan, and it's all going to factor back to what generational wealth or legacy are you leaving, if any. You all have been such a great audience, and I want to share here, this is so key. There are generally two types of financial mindsets. Spend first, save later. Save first, spend later. Who are you? Do you want to be a saver or a spender, or both? So when you're looking at your financial household, this is what you're looking at: cash flow, net worth, risk management, college funding, retirement planning, wealth accumulation. You're going to fall into one of those buckets or several of them. So you want to have a strong financial future. Now, budget preparation and worksheet. You want to know that we talked about legal documents, again, things that you need to have in place. You need to understand your budget for sure. And of course, with our session, we are also going to provide you with an evaluation that you will be able to complete. And why are we doing that? Because we want to know what you want to know about, so we can bring forth more exciting sessions like this in order to help you get to the next step. And most importantly, I want to thank you for your time, your energy, and being here. And if you felt like you got a little something, do you mind giving us a reaction, just so we know that you got something out of this session? Thank you so much. And this is my reaction to you all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to turn this right on over to our soror Pansy. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah Angelina. That was wonderful. We truly appreciate you all staying with us. We have a lot of additional topics, which Sarah Angelina explained to you. I know you'll want to dial in. So look for our next flyer to come out so you can join us. We'll have one of these topics once a month. So look for our topics. Don't forget to reach out to Sarah Angelina if you want the workbook, because the workbook is something that you can start working on your own. And also, you can follow along in the workbook in our future sessions, and it's free, no cost. You email her, she will email you with the information. So right now we're gonna pause for a minute. So if you want to have questions, use the chat box at the bottom to put your questions. And then from about 7:31 until 8 o'clock, we will be discussing those. We'll have Sarah Angelina discussing those questions that you may have. I want to thank Sarah Joy Galbert, who's the chair of PP&D, as well as Madam Sarah Lenore Simmons, for joining us and for working with our committee. I want to personally thank the committee for preparing for this and for us brainstorming, coming up with these sessions. And a big shout out to Sarah Angelina again, because you have definitely given us everything we talked about and more. I'll turn it over to Sarah Galbert. Do you have any last thoughts, Sarah Galbert?
The thought that I have is I'm sitting here stunned because I'm hoping that I have not failed to plan or plan to fail or something. That was fantastic information. Wonderful to hear. I think that we got so much this evening, and I do want to thank again Sarah Bryan for sharing this information with us. I would like to say before we pause or leave this evening, we do have a request. Please to fill out the survey. I think the link, you might have seen that scrolling forward in the chat. So if you would be so kind, please, SOAR President or Sarah Lenore has just put it back in to the chat. So if you would please take time to do that before you leave. I also have, I saw a couple of questions. I did see one before I click it over to Sora Willis, but I did see one where one of the guests was asking, how do we access the recorded sessions? So I did see that, and I wanted to make sure that that question was addressed before we go forward. Also wanted to mention one more thing. We are talking about this being a series. The next date is, I believe it is March 19th. Take a look at that and make sure that I'm honest. That is a Friday, and the topic for discussion is going to be the generational wealth. So that is the topic of discussion for March 19th. There will be another flyer that's going to be coming out to your attention. And also, again, there is a link to register now for that event if you are inclined to do so, but we will have another flyer for you. And please look out for that on our social media websites, pages as well. So Sora Willis, I'm going to turn it over to you. I don't know if you recorded. There was a question that did roll forward, so I'm going to turn it over to you at this moment.
Yes, thank you, Sora Joy. First of all, thank you also, Angelina. I'm already looking to run and make sure that I have my financial house in order after learning about all of these good tips for life insurance. We do have a question. If one is retired, has had a heart attack, is it too late to get long-term care insurance?
That is a great question, and thank you for that question, Sora Samira. Absolutely. It's not, as they say, we can never say it's too late. Every individual circumstance is different, and underwriters will review your medical history and information to see if you are able to apply for a policy. You can even do what is known as a pre-application, which is when an underwriter will review and ask some questions, review the information before you have to go through the full process and get a declination. So absolutely, if that is something you are interested in knowing about, that is something you can do. So again, a heart attack just in and of itself doesn't necessarily preclude you from having a long-term care policy. But again, the underwriter would need to dig deeper and see.
Okay, and that is the only question that I have captured. I've scrolled back through a few times. So like Sora Joy mentioned, please make sure that you do the two things, which are complete our survey and then also register for this next session that's coming up next month.
The recording.
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to mention that the recorded version of the sessions will be placed in members only under the Financial Fortitude folder. So that's where you can access the presentation. If there
So
are no-
Lindsay, for those who are not members of the chapter, we may want to look into providing them with a link for a YouTube video so that they can see it there. So if that is your desire, I think there might be a comment section in the survey if you want to mention it there, and we'll make sure to make that available to you.
And we have one more question asking where can we download the booklet, which I believe we are to email Angelina, is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. And I will place that email right back up here. You can send me an email and we will 100%, get that to you. And again, if all you're wanting is the book, no worries. So again, it's just so that you can have that information. So I am getting you that screen here. Okay, and let me just enlarge it here. Okay, great. So there's the email right there at the bottom at the amccarthy@ft.newyorklife.com. Just send me a quick email, say, I just want to get the participant book, and I'll forward it right along to you. And you can print it as a PDF. You can save it. It's great. I mean, it actually will give you some really good insight.
All right, and to confirm, anyone can join these sessions, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Miss Angela Powell, I think her concern is that she'd like to see a video of today's presentation, that she's already completed her survey. Just go ahead and complete it again. And in that, be sure to let us know that you'd like a link to the recording.
If we have no more questions or any more comments, this ends our session. Thank you again for dialing in, and we look forward to seeing you again on March 19th. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.